Caring for a loved one with dementia can often feel like navigating a storm. The unpredictable behaviors, the emotional toll, the constant worry, it can leave you feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. But what if you had the tools to find your calm in all the chaos? Today, we're exploring practical, stress reducing strategies specifically designed for dementia caregivers. From mindful moments to building a supportive network, join us as we chart a course toward a more peaceful and manageable caregiving journey. Have you been searching for ways to connect with your loved one experiencing memory loss? Perhaps you've noticed how music unlocks their hidden memories and sparks joy. Inspired by her own mother's journey, my guest Jill created a book that blends the magic of music with the comfort of familiar stories. Inside, you'll find short, uplifting tales sprinkled with playful spelling challenges, all designed to engage the mind and stir the soul. Welcome back, Fading Memories listeners. I always appreciate your ears every week. With me today is Jill Donahue. She is the author of a unique type of book that is specifically designed to engage with your loved ones and kind of give them a little bit of a brain challenge. And before I completely blunder the whole explanation, I will just let Jill explain it to you. So thanks for joining me, Jill.
Oh, thanks, Jennifer. Pleasure to be here.
So thank you for joining us. So let's start with you. Give us your backstory, a little bit about your caregiving journey and how that led you to becoming a caregiver creator.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, well, when Dad died at 65, 23 years ago, I first started to notice that because I was spending a lot of time in Dad's last weeks with both of them, and I started to notice Mom's memory wasn't quite all there. And so it's been a 23 or so year journey of it slowly fading. I moved her from a small town 2 hours away from me to a little bungalow around the corner. So it started with her coming for dinner every night, and I have the most wonderful husband who welcomed that new addition to our family, and she became a bigger part of our family until we finally realized about 4 years ago that it was no longer safe for her to be in the house, and shopped around a lot, and then found a beautiful apartment for her in a retirement home. And so she's been there for a few years and doing well until recently she had a couple of falls, and we now have a team around her. We call them the Bringing the Joy team. So I'm a member of the team, and I have 5 other wonderful, I call them sister women now, who help me with managing her from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. And then she has her button at night for the caregiving staff at the retirement home to help. So,
Now,
and then you asked me, go ahead, yeah.
is this a traditional retirement home, like assisted
Mm-hmm.
living? Okay.
Yeah, she's in the well, what's it called? All the terms, right? But she's in the non-assisted part of this. There is an assisted living floor, which we considered, but we went for this approach that we're doing. So her meals are all created for her. There's bingo downstairs. There's the button to call for the PSWs, etc. She has PSWs coming morning and night to change her and bathe her, etc. So she's requiring hands-on toileting, etc. at this point with our team. But one of the biggest challenges, you asked me how I became a caregiver creator, which I love that term. I love that because it's out of necessity, right? This caregiver
Mm-hmm.
creator. Yeah, one of the biggest challenges was I found helping her feel productive, helping her because she always wants to help. She was a teacher, right? And she's just full of love and just wants to help. So some girlfriends said to me, well, this was back when I was still bringing her to visit me. They'll say, well, get out some tea towels and have her fold them. And I was like, brilliant, right? Mom, could you help me fold these tea towels? Great. And then someone else said, well, why don't you have her edit some of your papers, some of the work that you do? And I was like, great idea. And then I didn't have anything for her edit. And then one day I noticed that she was singing all the words to It's a Long Way to Tipperary, which was an old War song. And I just went, oh, right, that's where her mind is. And then I thought, well, I should have her edit stories from the 1940s. So
Makes
anyway,
sense.
this became the book. It was editing stories. And then I thought, well, in the stories, I should talk about the songs. So then each story has at least one song from the era in it. So the idea is while she's editing the story to find the 20 errors in it, I play the song. And it's just been wonderful. And she thanks me for it every day because it's a new book every day, basically, right? So this book you made me. So then I thought, oh, I should share this with other people. So now I've made it so um, people can customize because I did a dedication page on it to her with our names in it. So every day she can be reminded, right, about the people that love her and their names. And then I thought, well, other people should be able to do that too, dedicate the book to their loved one and their names in it.
It
So
makes
anyway,
sense.
yeah, so it's been just a little fun project, and I'm so happy to share it with you and whoever else might. It's it's clearly not for everyone, right? Because you gotta like reading, and mom's still really good with words. We still play Scrabble and Boggle. So I know there's other people that doesn't work for, right? Depending on where you're at with your dementia. So,
And what is mom's specific diagnosis? Do you know? Is it
well,
just memory loss?
yeah, I assume it's Alzheimer's, but I don't I don't know. It's dementia, perhaps Alzheimer's. I don't know that they've said, one will say dementia, one will say Alzheimer's. I don't know. It doesn't matter
That's
to me.
interesting that they're still using it interchangeably because Alzheimer's is a specific disease and dementia is a symptom. So
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
interesting. Do you
Yeah.
have any plans to expand the book series to like, I don't think my mom would have resonated with a book, a song from, she might have resonated with A Long Way to Tipperary just because of my grandparents. My mom graduated from high school in 60 or 61. So her formative years was the decade of the 50s.
Yeah.
And I have recently learned that our core memories, the majority of our core memories, are created between the ages of 11 and 30. And when you think about the amount of living and experiences and
So
all the
much
changes that we go through in that two
traumatic stuff.
decades, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah. Those are the
It
big
makes,
years, right? Big stuff
yeah, it
happens, and that's
makes,
why it stays. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Well,
yeah,
and and Jennifer, actually, after I did the 1940s, because my mom was born in 1935. So the 1940s edition I did from a young girl's perspective. So it's like going in mom and dad's car for a Sunday drive, or the picnic, and mom and dad serving you, right? It's from a little girl's perspective. And then now I'm working on the 1950s edition, which it'll be from the perspective of a teenager. And then the 1960s edition is going to be from the perspective of a young mother. So that, and then the songs are, from Frank Sinatra up to the Elvis Presley, the Bing Crosby, Judy Garland in the early ones, and then up to the Elvis Presley and the Beatles in the latter ones.
that
So,
makes sense. That timeline would have worked pretty well for my mom.
what year
I'm
was
the
she born?
oldest. She was born in 45. Wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
43.
Mm-hmm.
And they got
Bit
married in
younger.
62, and I was born at the end of 66.
Me
So,
too. Well, I was born in the middle of 66. There you go.
okay. We both
Yeah.
just turned 58.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just put it out there. There we go. Yeah.
My paternal grandmother lived to 103. Her mind was perfectly intact until she was about 102.
No way.
Yep.
Wow. What a
So that's
blessing.
my goal. Have my mind
Yeah.
live to 103. That gives me 40, is it 46 more years?
I
Which
like your
some,
thinking.
except when I say it, how many years? It's like, oh Lord, that's exhausting. I think it's 45. I got to do math. Not my strong suit.
Well, many
So have you,
decades.
yeah, so I don't even want to think about what year that is at the end. So we'll just keep going
Yeah. One at a time, right?
one day at a time.
Yeah.
Have you tried this book with somebody else that's about mom's age? Maybe somebody in the community she lives in?
I haven't yet. It's really, really new. So I just put it on Etsy like a few weeks ago, and actually have had three people buy it on Etsy. And it was kind of neat because I got to communicate with them to do the dedication page and here, like I feel like I'm creating a little bit of a, I don't know, not a support group per se, but it's just nice connecting with other people going through the same stuff and knowing that they're going to have some connection and joy through this as well. Because that's what I decided, it's and that's why we call it the bringing the joy team, right? Because it's just about moments of joy at this time. There's nothing else. There's no there's no long-term anything here. It's just the moment of joy, connection and joy in the moment. But yeah, back to your question. So yeah, I would love to try it out with some more people. Um, share it around.
That'd be interesting, like research, because my mom was very big into talk radio and talk TV, so music therapy, so to speak, I was not very successful at that with her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody else might have had better success. I know that she would do activities in the care home that she lived in that she would not do with me.
Yeah, interesting. I know what you mean. Because you've probably seen the videos of when they put music on the ears of the patients and they perk right up. And I remember when I first tried that with my mom, it was very anticlimactic because mom wasn't a big music wasn't a huge part of her life. So when I put it on now, when we do the stuff, I'll try to get her to dance too, like just in her chair, and just try to have some levity. But then later, as she's working, she's like, "Can you turn that down too?" So I'm like, "Yeah, no problem, no problem." So
That's
take it or
funny. Yeah, I
leave it.
had kind of the same experience with my mom with music. I did not have like my AirPods or headphones for her, so that was probably like error number one, if you want to call it an error. And I had tried many, I got Apple Music. I can play whatever I want. And we were in the car, and so I had it play music from the 50s, thinking that was when she was in high school. And I
Yeah,
think I
that'd
was
be
on the right
fun.
track, but she just, I don't know, it just
Yeah.
seemed like she didn't even hear it. And so I went back to music that I remember my grandmother, her mom playing. And so we played some Nat King Cole, and I got her to dance with that, but eh, it it was not like there was no awakening or any of these exciting things you
No.
see.
And I think that's just so specific to just like my friend group. There's some that know every song and every word, and others that, even in my family, right? I'm the one that does not know any of the words, and my kids and my husband know them all. So it really depends on the person. Same with this book as an activity. Like, right, I have all the other activity books too, like the word search and the matching things, and we go through those. And some of them, there's a lot of math games in there too, and she doesn't like those so much. She loves the word games. So it's very dependent on, you got to know your person, right? But and because mom used to, reading was her pastime until this past year, so where that's not possible anymore. And I can't read to her. She can't follow even when we read to her now either. So, but circling the words, finding the mystery, like she just feels so accomplished. And I give her a red pen, right? So, and then I have her mark it at 20 wrong, like back to her teaching days.
So what we kind of glossed over it a little bit just because I knew they were there. I didn't realize there were 20 spelling errors in the book.
Yeah, in each story. So I can show it to you. I know not everyone is looking. I can describe it to you and show it to you because I know some people are watching and some people are listening. But I'm just going to ask you a request to share, and then you can let me share if you want. Um, but yeah, I wanted to give them lots, right? Because they might not get them all. So every story, there's 20 errors, and then there's an answer key at the back because my mom wants to make sure that she's got it right. But
Yeah, that'd be me.
yeah, right. You don't
Your
want
mom
to.
and I sound like similar personalities. I don't want to do the math puzzles.
Oh,
Those make me
interesting.
crazy.
Were you a
And I
teacher
love
too?
reading. Pardon me?
Were you ever a teacher?
Nope.
No.
Well, now I do community education for the
There you
Alzheimer's
go.
Association. So
Yeah,
I wasn't, but I guess now I am. But yeah, no, I
you're an
love to
educator.
read. Yep,
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so there's our cover page. So spark joy, evoke emotion, create connection. That's what we're trying to do and catch some memories. So spot hidden errors, and you'll see I have a little error in the hidden there, 3Ds. So hidden errors in 10 nostalgic stories for people living with dementia. So written with love by me, 1940s edition. And this is the dedication page that this one is my dedication to my mama, but I cater that to through when people order it through Etsy, they can give me what they want for the dedication and they get a version of this with that in it. So, and then the table of contents, you'll see I introduce it with, how to use this book and how to find those songs. So in case people aren't familiar with how to download a playlist, whatever, I explain that. And some tips for success about, how to create the joy with this. I have a brief historical note about the 1940s to position everybody and what that era was all about. And then the 10 stories, plus the answer key at the end of that, where I highlight the errors in the stories. So, and you'll see the stories are, from the soda fountain and the cinema and the ride on the trolley and the neighborhood block party and the penny arcade and the baseball game and picnics. I didn't want it to be, the negative. I just wanted it to be the pleasant stuff, like the pleasant, safe, happy
Yeah, there was a
memories.
lot going on in the 40s you probably don't want to go back to.
Exactly. When I first was doing it, I was like, oh, wow, no, I really don't want to take her back to that. So we kept it to these light, the radio show and ice cream and yeah, Sunday drives type stuff. So yeah, and then here's the introduction, instructions for the caregiver, how to get the most from the book, what to do together. And then the playlist thing I told you about. Here's the list of all the songs, which ones are in each story, tips for success, the historical note, and then boom, here's your first story. And you'll see it's not because it's very hard to remember, obviously, the story from paragraph to paragraph. So it's only, 4 or 5 paragraphs long each story.
It makes sense. I
Yeah.
found my mom's visual processing prevented her from reading.
Yeah.
And I could read short stories to her that were about that long,
Yeah.
page and a half on my iPad with kind of a larger font because, I just said I was getting older.
Yeah.
And she could track with that. And her friend, my mom's name was Diane, so this was her friend, other Diane, as I referred to her.
Aw.
She could still read, and I don't know if you're familiar with the two lap books. They're basically about 14 by 11 with beautiful
Oh,
illustrations and then just like
great.
a simple, I think it's just one sentence, like I love the sun on my face or something to that effect. I would have to pull my copies out to remember. But in the front, it also has like tips for success. And I panicked a little
Oh,
bit when
good.
her friend Diane started reading that because I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to know that these books are like designed for
Strategies.
engagement. Yeah. But
Right,
she just
right.
read it like it was just normal fiction. It was really fascinating.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you
Yeah. She
mentioned
was,
large font. That's key too, right? That these
yeah,
are
I
these
know
are large.
for those of us that need glasses.
Yeah. And I think you were talking about the length of the story. I'm not even sure mom really captures the gist of the story as much as it's just the errors that she's finding within the story. Do you know what I mean?
Now, was your
It's
mom a
just
teacher?
she was. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she's, she might have a hard time reading it even before the dementia and not
Just
scan
looking
for
for errors.
errors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Editing, always editing. Yeah,
that,
exactly.
that would be tough.
Yeah. Yeah, job hazard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you said there was 10 stories in the book?
Yeah, we just kept it to 10. And well, there's a little spot after each story for reflection in case they're talking about something. You could, catch some memories there um, as you wish. And then I'm just scrolling down to the answer key. You'll see how we've just highlighted each of the corrections. And that's it. And then I have a back cover of the book there.
I
Yeah.
like the spot for the reflections or the memories because
Yeah,
one, that's another way to engage with them in the future, but it's also something that you'll probably very much appreciate when she's gone.
exactly. Yeah, you always want to capture what you can because we're going to forget it too, right? So
Yes.
nice. Yeah. And another way of trying to make it interactive. I don't know about you, but I find it difficult. Of course, I speak to mom on the phone every day and I'm in there for my shifts every week too. Um, but I find what to talk about in that phone call is difficult, right? And you want the phone call to be longer than 3 minutes, but what else can you talk about? So anything that prompts conversation, like these stories, like, did you ever go to the soda fountain? Do you remember Elvis Presley? What do you remember a sock hop? Tell me about that is helpful.
Shall we go back to main screen now?
Mm-hmm.
And we
Stop
can still see each other,
share.
but
There we go. There we go.
um, and you called your care team the Spark Joy team?
Oh, that would have been better, Jennifer. I call it
Oh,
the Bringing the Joy team, but I like
bring
Spark
it.
Joy better, shorter, punchier.
I was
Yeah,
like,
I should have spoke
I
with
knew it had
you.
something similar, was tied in with the book, but I'm like, oh crud, I can't remember. How
I
did
like the Spark Joy team. I might have to,
uh,
we're called the Bringing the Joy team, but Spark Joy is
both
better.
both work? Hey, there we go. A little technical issue. Technology's hating me today. Actually, it's been hating me for a while.
Oh,
Today is extra Haiti on me though, so I'm just kind of
there's days like
muddling through
that,
here.
right?
Yeah, it's like
Mama always
all you
told me
can
there'd be
do.
days like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
How did you set up the Bringing the Joy team? Because people always
Oh,
have trouble with that. So,
yeah. Oh, and this is a thing, right? You can't imagine it. And that's so much of the anxiety. So when mom had two falls in a row and had a compression fracture in her back, and she was just so low. And I remember my brother and I were talking about, cremation or where are we at? Like we thought she was over. My oldest daughter was getting married in 3 weeks
oh dear.
and life was busy. Um, and now I was there. I'm like slowly realizing, oh, the button isn't, she can't be alone, right? Like she can't toilet. She panics alone. She can't be alone. So now I'm there all the time. And I remember coming home and saying to um, our household manager, she was our nanny, but my girls are older now, so she comes and cleans the house. So I call her my household manager. But I said to Nancy, who's a treasured member of our family, I said, Nancy, I need help. Do you know anyone that can help me with mom? And she said, yes, my friend Selma, my best friend Selma from church. And I was like, okay, give me Selma's number. So I reached out to Selma, met her. And in the meantime, I had another friend, her mom had been through this. So she put me in touch with an agency. And so the agency was sending a woman. But the problem was, I couldn't talk to the woman directly. I could only talk to the owner of the agency, and then she'll talk. So I felt very disconnected from, I wanted to be able to communicate and hear what was going on in the day and like more hands-on type of thing. So anyway, I met with Selma and then I started exploring floor 2, the assisted living floor. And there was an outbreak at the time, so she couldn't move in, which turned out to be a blessing because I got to explore that more and realized I didn't think it was going to be the best choice for mom and her needs. But I was struggling with, I didn't know what else I could do. I thought I had to go there. And then I remember saying to Selma one day, well, I guess we're going to move mom to floor 2 on Thursday. And I just looked at her face and I said, what are you thinking? Tell me, what are you thinking? And she said, well, I think we have another choice. And I said, what? What's the choice? She said, well, we could create a team around mom. And I said, but Selma, I travel for work. Like if somebody on the team can't show up and I'm in Boston, like she can't be alone. So how's that going to work? And she said, no, no, I'll be the team manager. So I'll be responsible for the team. You can have as many shifts as you want, but I'll be the team manager. And anyway, talked it through. And of course, yes, it's a huge financial challenge. So went to the finances and And you know how hard that is, right? Like, what if she
Mm-hmm.
lives for 10 years? Well, what if she lives for 10 months? Like I want her
It
to
does make,
spend every penny of her, like they were just teachers, so they didn't have a lot of money, but they were frugal and careful and invested well. So we still had the money from our house. Sorry, you were going to say something.
well, as I say, yeah, it makes it very difficult to plan. It's like you can't
Hmm.
just be like, okay, mom, when's the end date?
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
really
How
helpful to
many
know.
months? How many years? So then we decided we just have to trust, right? We just have to go with what's best right now, one step at a time, and trust that we'll see what needs to happen next when things change. But for right now, her quality of life is as good as it could be. I feel really great about her quality of life right now. She calls our team her partners. My partner here,
That's a
or
good
my
term for that.
friend. Yeah, my roommate, my helper. She has all these different terms for them. But they're doing activities and they're in outbreak again right now. So they're in the room. So we have, things like balloons and fly swatters to play tennis with in the room and exercises and games and book, and, you know,
Are they
trying
having
to
a
keep
COVID
her
outbreak or
busy.
flu?
A COVID outbreak.
Oh,
Mm,
goodness. My mom's care home, they got a crash course in dealing with basically outbreaks the
yeah.
winter before COVID. So this would be the 18-19 winter. The
A flu
assisted
outbreak?
living part of the community had a huge flu outbreak.
Oh dear.
It
Terrible.
was so bad they had to combine, like what your mom's experiencing. The residents had to stay in their rooms, their meals were delivered to their rooms, they
Yeah.
had to close the dining room. The memory care was separate, and they already brought meals over from the assisted living kitchen. So that all pretty much functioned as normal, but there was like they they did some proactive things like left windows open a crack for a little more airflow. I don't know how good or bad
Mhm.
that helps. I'm always cold, so I wasn't too appreciative
Well, and
of.
so are seniors, so that'd be challenging for
Yeah,
sure.
it wasn't. They might have used more electricity keeping the building warm. It was only
Right.
open an inch or so. It wasn't open a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was signs, that they had a huge flu outbreak, and they were recommending you didn't come in, but if you wanted to come in, so it was kind of like a trial run for COVID, which I'm sure they didn't. I'm
Well,
sure it was a good thing, but I'm sure they would have liked to have
it's
skipped
very
it.
difficult. And the loneliness, right? Like that's a real health hazard. I would
Yeah.
loved your episode with the lady that has the happy talk.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about how great that would be during an outbreak where you can hire someone to call your loved one and have conversation, right? Somebody's going to call however many times a week. Like that's a pill right there, right? That's a real health bonus to
And
to
there's
to get rid
so
of
many
loneliness.
ways of navigating these journeys, and I've been doing this show for almost 8 years, which blows my mind. I can't
Is
believe it's
that
been that long.
right? Good for you.
Yeah, it's like what the I don't know how
What a
we got this far.
service.
And I'm still learning really good caregiving practices,
Mm,
which, the only soul that I have to provide any kind of serious caregiving is my 10-year-old golden retriever.
mm.
And she's whip smart, and she doesn't have any cognitive issues, but I do things for her to keep her brain healthy.
Stimulus. Yeah.
Yeah. She gets her dinner in the toy that you have to push around
A
to get the
challenge.
kibble out.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do the same for my golden doodle.
We started doing that. So when we got her at 8 weeks, she was the baby of three, then the middle of three, and then the oldest of two. And we were getting to the point, she was at the point where it was like, oh, is it, time to get the spare, basically. And the youngest dog decided to get really super aggressive cancer and died before his 6th birthday. So he fouled up the entire process,
Whoa.
and he was such a love. And life has been kind of, it's not the right time to bring another one in. So, from 8.5 to 10, she's
Yeah.
been, and it actually, it'll be 2 years by the time this episode comes out that she's been an only, and she's super social. She gets grumpy when we don't go and do things in the afternoon. It's
Like her
like
mama, it sounds like.
she's more social than me. I'm fine with doing
Wow.
these Zoom calls and then going
Yeah.
upstairs, making dinner, and reading the news and reading a book. And she's not into that. She's into the food, but not the reading. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to utilize some of that knowledge and some of those tools on an older dog. Definitely not at all like taking care of my mom, but
But
you know,
the concept that what you're referring there, the importance of the socialization, the importance of the stimulus, all these things for any living creature, right? And yeah, it's a shame to think that some of our dogs get more socialization than some of our seniors.
yeah.
Okay. I'm so aware now when I'm out in the world that I might be the only person that senior speaks with that day. When we're at the grocery store, or the library, and I always make a point now of just giving a little joy, right? Because you might be the only face, only eye contact that they have that day. It breaks my heart,
Yeah,
but
that is a little sad to think about, but it's 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 good that you just put that out there so other people can be like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't
spread the
it,
joy.
yeah, it doesn't cost you anything. It's not going to take
Nothing.
up time of your day to smile at somebody else,
It's
especially
good for
somebody
you
that's older."
too.
Mhm.
They say those contacts are part of happiness, a part of your own self-care. So yeah, it's good for you too, and especially good for them. But yeah, I'm
Ugh,
more and more aware of it now. And we also are bringing the joy team. We talk about is not just for mom in her home, but let's spread the joy to the people around her too. So how can we, when they're not an outbreak, how
yeah.
can we spread the joy versus spread the germs?
It's
Spread the joy.
hard to imagine. This is the 26th of November 2024. It's hard to imagine that communities are still having to deal with that. It's like, ugh.
I know.
I was lucky. I've only had one bout of COVID, and that happened this past summer. I keep saying it was my one
And
and
you
only
were
time. Yeah.
you were
I,
late.
I thought I was bulletproof, I suppose.
Clear.
My
Yeah, right. You sort
husband
of
brought
feel
it
that way.
home, and I didn't feel my energy level was not great, but the worst part about it was I literally lost my voice for 3 weeks. Could
Oh,
not
that,
squawk out.
whoa.
If I was being attacked, I was in deep trouble. It was horrible. I had to
I
keep
can
rescheduling
imagine.
recordings, and
Yeah, your
oh, it was,
whole world
yeah.
revolves around talking.
And when you can't, somebody like comes in, oh, hey, hi, and you're like, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm not being rude. I just can't acknowledge
yeah.
you
And
verbally.
3 weeks is a long time.
Yeah, it was awful. It was really
Mm-hmm.
awful.
I can imagine.
So, I didn't have a
Yeah.
cough or any of that stuff. That might have been preferable, but yeah, it was wild because it
It's
just,
interesting how it presents so differently for different
yeah, it's
people.
like I
Yeah.
have issues with my throat that I've been working on, and so I think it just went to the weakest part of my body, and
Mm-hmm.
apparently that was it, or I don't know, it was
Mm-hmm.
telling me I needed a break. It definitely did not do anything more than harm the daylights out of my schedule.
Yeah. Put a month really, right?
Yeah, it was awful. Because I
Yeah.
kept, pushing people out. Like I would have like planning chats, and then like, okay, they'd schedule, and then I'd have to email and say, I'm sorry, I still don't have a
No,
voice. There was one gal, I think we rescheduled. Part of it was on her as well, but I think we were on our like fourth or fifth date before we finally recorded.
my goodness.
And her episode was supposed to come out today, and that's one of the things that technology is not liking me. It's like once every 4 to 6 weeks, one episode just takes forever to populate the podcast apps.
Mm,
And nobody can figure out why.
right.
Everybody points
History. Okay.
fingers. It's these guys, and it's like, no, I don't know what it is. I thought I had it fixed, but apparently not.
Thought you
So
had it figured out, but no. Well,
yeah, no,
fingers
technology.
crossed.
It's if it doesn't populate by midnight tonight, I will. Well, probably before I go to bed, I'll email the audio host and say, "Okay, this is getting really old
Something
because this
weird.
is this is the fix that I've been doing, and that obviously didn't work this week." So
Right.
And last
Wow.
week it took a whole day for Spotify to pick it up, which is usually the second app. It's so weird. I don't,
Right.
you know, when
And
it
what
works, it's
inspires
great.
you to keep doing this year after year?
It's just I just really curious and I really enjoy learning new things, which obviously is good for my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I because my mom passed away at the start of the pandemic, I have regularly asked myself, well, what other thing would I do? Because I gave up the portrait photography during the pandemic. We downsized, we moved out of the house where my studio was attached. I got really tired of explaining to people, well, yes, your iPhone does take amazing photos. You do not. You still
Mm-hmm.
need me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would do business portraits and they would say, well, can I have all these on, digital? And I would ask them, is your monitor calibrated to your printer? To which I would
Mm-hmm.
usually get a big dopey expression because they had no clue what those words meant. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, if you can't answer that question, then no, you can't have everything digitally because you need a hard copy to know what it's supposed to look like. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
call and yell at me that it looks like crap because you've photoshopped it or tweaked it somehow. So I
Mm-hmm.
decided it was technology was not my friend then either. And every time I think, well, what else could I be doing? I have not had any epiphany that something, some other journey would be better. So
And
I just keep expanding this
imagine,
one.
imagine the number of people you're helping and touching through this, right? Which is amazing. The ripple
Hmm.
effect of the work that you're doing.
And then it's been almost a year when this comes out that I have launched a professional speaking career to talk to corporations about why they need to invest in their working family caregivers because hello, it is already costing them money.
Right.
So, like, pay attention. I don't understand. I read all kinds of articles on LinkedIn and other places about employee retention, and it's like, you guys are overlooking the gigantic silver tsunami that's about to swamp you.
Right.
And I can
Right.
help you with some really basic, really easy things to do that's going to really
Good for
boost your
you.
bottom line. So,
Do you
but
find there's an industry that's more receptive to hearing
not
than
yet
another?
because a lot of them don't realize they have this problem. So
Yeah.
we're trying to kind of work through that. I think it's just going to be like constant banging on the door until they're like, "Fine, come in, talk to us."
And is it HR that brings you in?
That's the goal. That's the
Yeah.
target.
Yeah. And help
So
them understand how to help their people be caregivers. Yeah.
just how to, what the
Part of their mental
corporation could
health
do.
plan, right?
Well,
Because
if you got a
caregiving has such
sandwich caregiver,
impact. Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
I think that we need a term more like that's the anvil caregiver because they're the ones being squeezed on both sides.
Mm,
Their
hmm
health is not as good, their mental health is not as good, which obviously costs the company money. And if
hmm
they can do things to lessen the stress and the burden, they're obviously
hmm
going to save money on their healthcare costs, at least in this country. Jill is in Canada, so I think it might be a little different there. Not
Well,
sure.
the same issues exist, right? And it impacts on productivity, it
Mm-hmm.
impacts on motivation, so many things. Helping people with managing life is more and more important for companies to do. So good for you for,
Yeah, we're at the point in life or in the evolution of our society, however you want to kind of think about that, where you and I are Gen Xers. So when we started our working careers, it was like this is work, that's home, and you keep them separate.
right? But
That
not
doesn't work
now.
anymore.
Mm,
You may want it to work. We may want it to be like that. Like I want to leave that home crap at home, and like I don't want to worry about the dog and the mom and all. No, I want to worry
it's
about all
all
that.
mixed. It's
Yeah.
funny you say that, Jennifer. I remember sitting down on my floor back in the day. Do you remember when we used to take our film in and you'll
Mm-hmm.
get your 24 photos? And I had my album out and and I was putting the pictures in and I was putting them in my personal album. Then I picked up picture. It was a work picture, but it was with people I loved. And I was like, well, does this go in my personal album or my work album? And that was the moment, like I still remember that aha early on in my career that, oh, these two things are inextricably connected. There is no separation. This is life, work
And
and home, all
and I
life.
think when we acknowledge that and we do everything to support the individual so that
Yeah,
they can be the
live their
best.
best life.
Exactly. Well, and be like the best employee and like the best
The best
caregiver to your
mom, partner,
mom, kids, dog,
caregiver.
whatever,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and the skills that we learn as caregivers, medical, legal, financial, like
Mm-hmm.
I frequently say people should, caregivers should get a honorary PhD
Degree. Yeah.
because of all of that. And until you point that out, like, it's taking a while for workplaces to catch up to the new
Indeed.
way of thinking, and they're
It is
resisting.
the future, though. That is the
Yeah.
future of
I
good
think once they
workplaces.
figure it out, we'll be doing the whole globe will be at least our part of the globe will be much improved. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we could use some of that right now.
Sure could. Yeah. Caring
Um,
for each other,
yeah,
acknowledging the reality
exactly.
of it. Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
none of my suggestions are, setting up this whole department or da da da, like I would think it would be great if a large corporation could do in-house childcare and elder care because there are some significant benefits when you blend the two. So you've got little kids that might have some, extra like bonus grandparent time, and the elders are getting bonus grandchildren time, even if it's not their own grandkids.
Love that idea.
Yeah. And then the the person that's not there, that caregiver in the middle, that sandwich caregiver person is benefiting because, if you've got kids in the daycare and elders in the, I think somebody referred to it as life care, which I like that a lot better than adult day program. Just does not roll off the
Mm-hmm.
tongue.
Mm-hmm.
They've been active and engaged and busy, and they come home and they've got things to talk about while you make dinner instead of harassing you because they're hungry and they're bored and they're cranky, and that's on both sides. And they sleep better because
Mm-hmm.
they haven't been sitting around watching TV all day. So
Well,
there's,
purpose, they feel a sense of purpose, right? Purpose comes from serving others.
mm-hmm,
So if you set that elder up in the daycare and they have responsibility to read story time or to watch nap time, they have jobs. That's all anyone wants, right? Is to feel that their life matters and they have purpose. So, and goodness, we know those childcare workers need extra hands. So not that it'd be right for everyone. Like my mom would not be of assistance in that situation, although 10 years ago she would have been, right? So it's matching it up with the
mm-hmm.
abilities. But I think there's a big group of people that could so help childcare, a big group of elders that could so help child, but it's not really set up that way. I love that idea, Jennifer. What else do you suggest for them?
Basically, just setting up, well, first off, you start by asking people, like, what kind of caregiving are you doing so that you know, most of your employees are raising kids, or
Yeah.
most of your employees taking care of elders, or God forbid, they're doing both. It helps to really know, and companies don't know, and they don't know
Hmm.
why people are leaving. Like,
So
what?
survey,
Yeah,
get to
exit interview.
listen. Yeah,
Why are you
yeah,
leaving? Because I
yeah.
can't take care of my mom full time and do this job full time. And well, I can't put my mom on a hook. So I don't have a choice but to leave my career, which I don't want to do, but what's my other
And you're probably
options?
advocating that they do the survey before they have to get the exit. So just find out where all your people are at regarding
Right.
caregiving. Yeah,
Because, you've
got
got
it. Yeah,
people who are retiring early because they need to take care of a spouse,
yeah.
people who go to part time work for similar reasons, people who have to leave the workforce. I know caregivers in their 30s that have left their careers to take care of a loved one. And what's going to happen when the loved one's gone and they try to go back into the workforce? Right now, the workforce is going to be like, what the hell have you been doing for the last 10 years?
Indeed. I'm just imagining how great it would be for retention and job satisfaction to receive. I'm just picturing receiving a caring email from my employer that has a short survey in it to find out what am I dealing with outside of the 9 to 5? Who am I caring for? Right? Wow, would I
Mm-hmm.
ever feel heard and listened to? And then perhaps they would offer some services and support, right? To help. Oh, we've got a talk, or here's the podcast you can listen to for caregiver support, that sort of thing.
Yeah, because and then once they know what people are doing, is just to talk about it, like we're doing.
Yeah,
Like you're caring for your mom. I took care of my mom. I know people caring for a spouse. I know people caring for a grandparent. And once we're talking and we're sharing ideas and resources and things. So that's something the company just helps facilitate. Like, hey, it's okay to talk about this stuff. And boom, people are like, hey, did you hear about this service or, or did you hear about this great book with the spelling errors and the music and all that? Oh my God, no, that sounds really cool. Or did you hear about the two lap books or, this VR program? I'm going to be recording on that one in a couple months. It's just, that's something HR doesn't have to worry about. That's like a hands off
Well,
right
just to
there.
facilitate it, because you can just imagine in the hallway for those who are going into a office building, all the way down that hallway are people probably dealing with something similar to you. You just don't know it. So if the
Hmm.
company were to facilitate that, it doesn't cost them anything, but now they're creating that support. So now instead of feeling like at work I have to hide it, they can feel like, wow, at work, at lunchtime, I can talk to Jennifer because now I know she's in the same boat as me and she's got some ideas that I don't know about, and I've got some ideas that she doesn't know about. I love that idea. Just bring it out in the open.
Yep.
Let people be
And
real.
how much is that company going to benefit from that loyalty that you now feel? Because wow,
Exactly.
I can't go over to Acme Inc. because I don't think they do this over there, and I'm not giving this up.
I love that.
Yeah. So
Cost
now you
them
got,
nothing.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
none of my suggestions. It's maybe expanding a little bit on people's roles. Maybe would have to bring in one person, although you could bring in me because I can do all of it. I could do the
Amazing.
facilitating of the conversations, and I almost think it would be better to have an outside person doing the surveys, like what kind of caregiving are you doing, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exit interviews, not necessarily exit interviews, but gather the data that you may not want to tell HR. You might be more
Absolutely.
willing to tell somebody that doesn't
And
work for the
then a
company.
summary would be provided back. That could
Yeah,
be
it's
where
like,
you
hey,
could,
X
yeah, yeah.
percentage are, parents, X percentages are caring for a spouse, and here's the chunk that's taking care of both.
Mm-hmm.
Or, what if
Yeah.
you're taking care of a spouse and a parent and you've got kids at home? Maybe they're teenagers. Like, oh Lord, that gives me a headache just thinking about it.
And you know what's out there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people are managing that.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my goal. I just got to keep hanging on those doors and saying, hello, do you not realize what's going
Well, you just keep talking to people and sharing ideas, and you'll never know the ripple effect of the work that you're doing because it's boundless. So good for you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the how you're turning your pain into purpose, really,
Well, thank you.
right?
And I welcome you to our caregiver creator community. And I love the
Thanks for that,
idea of your
Sharon.
book because my mom wasn't a teacher, but I bet you she would have appreciated having these books that you're working on.
Mm,
So,
mm.
at
Well, for the right
least in the
person,
middle
yeah.
stages.
Right? It's for the right type of person at the right stage
Yeah.
of their journey.
I ended up taking care of her for the last 3 years of her life, and I didn't realize it was the last three. So
Mm,
I think a lot of our I always call them spectacular failures on any of the typical therapies that people always recommended, reminiscence, music, etc. I think a lot of the struggle was because I didn't realize how far into the disease she was.
mm,
So,
mm.
and she fell and broke her leg, which was the last straw for her body, which was right at the start of
Oh,
COVID. So that was
yeah.
kind of a blessing. And, I don't know how much longer. She probably would have lived a couple, 2, 3 years maybe. She's only 77 when she died.
Mm,
And
okay,
until she fell and broke her leg, she
young.
was fully ambulatory with no aids. So who
It's those
knows?
falls that we have to
Yep.
avoid, right?
Yep.
That is the last straw
Yep.
often,
That's
the
when your
falls.
body's like, that's it. I can't deal with
You
this
realize,
anymore.
yeah, you realize how important it is to have that balance and strength to not fall.
Yes. I had a personal trainer that was 15 years older than me. I'm assuming she still is because she shouldn't be that old. She should still be around.
Mm,
And balance was one of her biggest things when she worked with her
mhm.
clients was maintaining balance. So
Yep, because we
I
lose
work
it.
on that every day too because I'm
Yeah,
not gonna we we ended up moving from a single story home to a 2 story home, which was stupid as we're aging, but you know
but good for you because once you stop doing stairs, you stop doing stairs,
that's
right? So
true. I don't like
yeah,
stairs because I got creaky knees, but
yeah, but
this
good
has
for
been a
you.
great conversation. I think we've shared some
So
extra
nice to
bonus
meet
stuff.
you.
Yes, and I have to
Yeah,
get back to Toronto one of these days soon. Maybe I'll have
indeed.
a company in New York and I can just pop over the border,
You
which
pop over,
sounds
exactly.
sounds illegal, but I have a passport, so
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem at all.
um,
Yeah, it's funny because we're modeling here how good it is just to connect, like what we are talking about doing in the workplace, right? But how good it is just through listening to the podcast, feeling like you're not alone, hearing other people talk about their journeys. I think
mhm.
caregiving is such a lonely endeavor. So I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing and having conversations with people they don't, you don't see them, but they're part of this conversation with us today. So that's awesome. Thank
I
you.
can kind of hear them cheering. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm not alone.
And
One day
I'll
at a
make sure to
time.
link the Etsy store for the book in the show notes.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, happy to send
Awesome.
it.
Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
Oh yeah, and I'll hope if people do, I'll look forward to chatting with them through email when they order the book and get their dedication page and hear about their story.
Awesome. Thank you
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Take good care.
Fading Memories is also available wherever you get your podcasts.